Let's take a look at space styles for floor areas in AutoCAD Architecture. Now this discussion will be on the customized versions of space styles that we at ARCHIdigm have done for our customers. So there'll be more things you can do with spaces, but we'll just focus on how we configure them for floor area calculations. Now, this is part 2 of a 3-part series. So in the previous discussion and demonstration, we left off with the floor plan on my screen and where I had shown that you can use floor slabs if you want as a means to tag and track your areas. You can even schedule floor slabs. But there's kind of a price that you pay because it really doesn't make that much sense to break each room up into a separate floor slab object, since that's not how buildings are framed. But it's an approach that's maybe something you need to do or want to do, or it's the best way for you. So we'll look at all the different options for floor areas that I can think of. We also did rectangles. We just used regular rectangles, which was on this tool palette here down at the bottom. So go look at video number 1 if you're interested in simpler ways of doing areas. Now I'm going to jump into what this tool palette is mostly focused on, and that is using the spaces. So I'll jump out of this file, and I'm going to go ahead and open up a construct that I made here. There we go. And I added a little bit of a detail here just to show how clever spaces are. They can do island detection. The spaces tool palette is available in our, let's see here, I'll go to home. It's available in our general tools product, which comes with any of these other, purchase of any of these, you get general tools. And here we have a palette specifically dedicated to spaces. And like I said, it's primarily focused on just floor areas, to calculate floor areas. So I'll close this up. So I have what I would say is probably a second floor of a simple office commercial building. On the tool palette here at the very top, what we did is we configured some names along with the styles that you might use for different types of work. So we have restaurant and bar names, and on the next one down we have business names. So this is for offices and things. By default, if you just go down and start using the tools, the space tools here, you will get residential names. So if you know you're going to do something like this, that's commercial, do this. Bring this in first, just to save yourself some time. Go ahead and drop it in. And then it's a block that brings in styles and lists and so forth. And then there's a little explanation here. To the left are the automatically generated spaces. To the right are the manually drawn spaces. So this is what they'll look like. You can change the color, the line type, and even the hatch. That's all just defaults. The colors and the outline here, those are all individual layers. The top one is demolished, the second one is proposed, the bottom one is existing. So that's kind of, you can see what we focused on, so sort of very pragmatic use of these spaces. For an office like this, I probably would skip using the manually drawn ones, which you could argue are probably better suited for schematic design. You use those to lay out your floor design before you even get to walls. However, there are definitely times, which I'll demonstrate, where you will come back and you will go from automatic to manual. Yeah, let's go down here then. So we'll go down to where it says auto generate. We'll use any of these 3. So if this is a proposed building, I will pick the middle one here for proposed. And I'll just go ahead and look at this. It'll find that those spaces based on the interior face of material. But before I pick, take a look at this. See, it'll default to room. You can actually preset what you want it to default with if you do this before you pick. So I would do something like office, and now I'll pick, and then it'll go office, office 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe I'll go here, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then I'll come down here, pick here, pick here, pick here, pick here. and then over like that. Boom. So those are all done. Now, personally, I don't use this naming convention. This is automatically done by AutoCAD Architecture. It's nothing we could change. So if you, like me, don't like these parentheses in there, this is what I do. I pick it, I right-click, I do a select similar, and I run over and I just assign them the name that I want for most of these, which will be office. Okay, so it clears all of that out. Then I'll go take care of the other ones individually. So I'll set this to, this will be elevator. And this one here, I'll go ahead and set to storage. You know, and I keep going on. This one over here, I'm going to set to corridor. So I keep going. There's no need to repeat all of that. But yeah, so here we have basically all of the interior spaces taken care of now. If you zoom in, our default tag gives you the name of the space as it was set when you picked here. So it's a proposed space, the name that you set over there on the list, and then automatically provides a rectangle with a number in it. It'll give you the length and width of the room, and it'll give you a net area in square feet. So we'll click here, then we'll see over here. So here's where you have the name. So I showed you that. It's associative by default, which means if you move a door, if I move this door here, you'll see like a little, yeah, a little regen here because it's adjusting the space automatically. Now the door isn't making much change. What else do we have? So we select it. So we can see just a little bit of basic information on the space itself. Now notice it's set to 2D. That's how we designed these. We did not mean for these to be used for volume calculations. But if we go to extended tab, then you'll see the custom data that we configured for these. So if you go down here, you'll see it's showing you the name. And it says floor level space number, length, width, height, length times width. That's how it's feeding that thing in there. And you can see where it's getting that data from. We created the data and configured it so that it spits out in a way that looks like that. Now this is the tag, and the tag is reading information from the space. So if you're not that clear on how that works, I can just give you a quick overview here. The data is always driven by something called a property set definition, which is in here. And for these spaces, they are right here. And here's a bunch of property set definition information that we put together to work with these spaces. So if you pick through here, you might start to see how that information is working and how it connects to the tags. One of the things is status. So we have a status option there. If I go back here and select that, the status is shown right here under classification. And it says that by that style, and what is the style name? The style name is proposed. So it makes sense that the classification would be proposed. But if you wanted to go in there and override it for some reason, you could go in and say demolish, which probably would be a poor way to do it, but you have that power changing the classification. And then it's reflected into the tag. I'm going to undo that. Okay. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers the basics of just knocking these out. So what we'll do now is we'll change one of these. So let's say this one is proposed, but I'm going to demolish it. So what I can do here is I can find the demolished, leave it in auto mode. We could go up and do a manual. I'll do that later, but we'll leave it in auto. I'll right click and I'll go ahead and select space. So now I've demolished it. Unfortunately, it reverts the name back to the default name of room. So I'll just go back up here and I'll go ahead and set that to whatever it was a conference room. Okay, I think it was office, but now I'm changing it. So I'm demolishing the conference room. And notice we set these up like I showed on the block, that a demolished area has a red outline with no hatch pattern. If I go down here and I change this one to existing, right click, space, again I lose the name. I'll go down here to office. You'll see now it says existing in there, and the hatch pattern changes a little bit. So we've set the basic. You can go in here and redesign these. You can right click and you go to edit space style. and you'll see 0, 0, 0 here. These are so simple. We made these the most simple. Rather than going in and making them the most sophisticated, we went the other direction. Let's make it so simple that anybody can get these to work. But you go to display properties, pick off whichever one. This is a medium detail, so that's plan here. And then you can see the hatch pattern is being controlled right here, right? Here's the net hatch. That's what you're seeing right there, and it's being controlled by this layer. And the color is by the layer. So you could go in and find net hatch, and you could change that to 12 inches if you wanted to, or 3 feet, or solid, or whatever you want. Right? So not too bad. So now you're probably going to be able to get move along doing this. Then you get into some tricky areas, and you wonder what to do next. Let's take this one here, a lower corner. So suppose you're working on a project and this is not sufficient for you in terms of doing your area calculations. It's really just giving you the interior, which is good for egress calculations. But if you're going to do something more advanced, maybe BOMA, or at least you're looking to actually calculate out to face of stud and center lines of your walls, this is not going to work now. So what do we have for options? Okay, what you would need to do, in my opinion, maybe you can get in there and use percentages and other settings that are in the styles, but here's what I do. I change something like that to a manual. Now I can go over here and get it over into manual mode, or I can take advantage of the tools that we set up here, you'll see these are the manual ones that just say draw as rectangle. So this is a propose. I'm going to keep it proposed. I'm going to right click and I'm going to apply to the space. So that changes it to our manual. And it didn't like something about the target square feet. That's fine. I don't care. I'm a little surprised that it did that, but that's fine. It's now shifted over to a different style. And you'll see the style here says GT General Proposed. And it has essentially an offset on it. So what we're looking at here is gross versus net area. And that you won't see in the others. The manual ones will have a gross and a net. So I can just go ahead and I can take the gross and I can drag it over here. Boy, I wish I knew where the midpoint was. So let's do this. We'll go down to medium. We'll change this to diagnostic. All right, so now under diagnostic, I can see the baseline of the walls. But that's not quite good enough. So I'm going to select the wall, right click, go to edit wall style, and then under sketch, I'm going to double click. I'm going to turn on the center lines of the walls. Now be aware, this is not center line of stud per se. Depends on how the wall was designed. This is center line of true depth or width of wall. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to make this red. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make this, let's do hidden. Let's go center 2. No, let's go, yeah, center 2 is good. And okay. All right, so now here I'm seeing the red line, which is the center line. Works great for the interior walls because they're perfectly matched. On both sides they have 5/8 sheetrock and a stud. The exterior walls, this is not so good, but that's okay because I want to do it to the exterior face of stud anyway, which is the baseline on our walls. So here now I can just grab this and pull it over and snap to here. And then I'll just go ahead and bring this down to here. And I'll bring this one up to, I'll do a little perp on this one. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring this one over to here. Okay. And that's kind of roughing it out. So I'm saying this is the outer edge of what I want to calculate. But that's not quite right. And I'll go to medium and be a little easier to see. All right, so here we go under medium. You can see that there's a little bit of error here. So we'll make some adjustments. But I do have my gross area exactly where I want it with the manual setting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, go in and edit the space style. And we're going to take a look at the design rules area. Now notice on the auto ones I said they're all 0. In this one, because these are manual, we set the net offset to a minus value. And the default is -6. And we got that from the logic of residential architecture with a 5.5-inch stud and a 1/2 inch of sheetrock. So that's where you get the 6. But for commercial building, you might need extra thickness, or depending on what your exterior framing is. But in this case, I know that I need 0.125, so I'm just adding that. So it's a minus 6.125. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And that should fix this right there. So now that lines up with the interior, but I've got these other things that I need to fix. Let's see, is there anything else? Nope, that's good. All right, so now I'm going to tweak these last parts on the manual. Now notice I don't have grips to adjust the net area. That's what I want. I would like to get those grips active. Now you can use this icon that we set up that turns on all grips, or if you just know this, you go to your Properties palette, and then see where it says Offset Boundary by Style. You can change that to Manual. And as soon as you do that, you will notice some new icons in there, some new grip markers. In total, you might see up to 4. I think 4 is all. I can't remember if it's more than 4. But we've limited it to 2, and the 2 are for the gross and the net. So that's all you have to work with on these styles here. Of course, you can do your own work. But I'm going to now change that. I'm going to activate the net boundary by clicking on that, and you'll see the grips appear. Now I'm going to pull the net, so I can pull the net to here and perpendicular on the inside finish material. So I'll do here to perp on this one, and I think I'm good on this one. Yep, so it was just those two, and then I can just exit out. So there we go. So now I have a more refined space object in terms of the area, and it will now track to the center line of the interior walls and to the exterior of stud. Just as an example, I'm not saying this is how you should do your calculations. And then I should change it went back to room. I'll change that to, just so we can see it in the schedule, let's change that to break room. All right, so then we know that that's the one. All right, I could get into far more stuff on the spaces, but I don't want to burn up too much time. But just be aware when you right-click and do Edit Space Style, and if you go over to Space Properties for any of these representations, you can see what we've done here is we're only using the base boundary for gross, and then we're using the net for the interior area, and then that's what's hatching. So that's how we've created that. But look, you have all kinds of other things you can modify and tinker with and play with. Cut plane doesn't matter for this. You can play with your hatch patterns. And again, we're only focusing on this for 2D floor areas. All right, let's now jump to scheduling. Yeah, we'll just go down to the schedules. So we'll scroll down on the list, and we have 3 different schedules as defaults. And these are meant to be examples that you could reverse engineer or hopefully use them as they are. But I've been in a lot of offices in my life, and every office wants to do everything different. So likely is that you'll start with one of these and then turn it into your own. We'll go with this one here, the top one. So this one says it's a space area table designed for manually created spaces that have offset values for gross areas. So this one is specifically designed for the spaces that are manually done that have a gross and a net. So it's not going to really offer you much on the automatically done ones because they don't have a gross, they only have the net. So the next one down is designed for the automatically ones, right? So you'll see in the schedule. So I'll do both. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab everything, and then I'll pop that schedule in. All right, and then I'm going to do the next one down, and the same thing. I just grab all of this stuff, and I'll pop that schedule in here. All right, and then you'll notice some differences. So the top one was designed for the manual, so you're going to see net and gross values in there. So we have the net area and the gross area, and there was only one that had a difference, and we named it break room. So we'll go down to break room here, and you should see that it shows a net area of 292, but the gross that was manually adjusted is 317.91. So this can be kind of useful. On the other one, which is just the automatically generated spaces, you'll see it's just going to show net areas. It won't have a gross because those didn't have gross. Now, we did design these schedules to have columns here, or I should say rows, for demolished, existing, and proposed. You don't have to use that column at all. You could take the schedule, right-click, go in here, and you can just dump status if you want. You can also go to the sorting area here on this tab, and you can create sorting orders that are different than our defaults. For example, this, because we use status, demolished, existing, as the sorting order, the primary sorting order, you'll see that the numbers do not sort as you may want to do. So let's see if I can just do this on the fly. I haven't practiced this or anything, but if I take columns and I get rid of status, delete, and then I go over to the sorting, yeah, it automatically deleted the sorting. And so I think this will go over to the numbers, 201, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, because it's set up for that as the secondary means of sorting. See, so it's not so bad. You can get going with these, start tinkering, delete things, alter things, and maybe you'll get a schedule that does exactly what you're expecting or what you want. For renaming, I don't know if that's on the, no, it's not on this, but we have the, or not renaming, but renumbering. It's the same renumbering tool you use for all your other tag renumbering. We have that under, I think it's under annotation, and you scroll, nope, it's under general annotation. Here we go. Sorted. Yeah, and it's at the bottom here. And it's just an AutoCAD command. I forget what the command is. It's renumber tags. So you can go in and use this to renumber your spaces. And what is the command down here? It's property renumber data. All right, so that'll work on these as well. Let's go back to spaces. We have other tags. So this is our default tag that you'll get, but maybe there's more information in that than you want. So you can always choose a different tag and use these as a way to reverse engineer. So I'll pick this one small. If I use that, it'll come in. If I turn my snap off, I can place it where I want. Right here. Right, so I have that one as another option. It just says the name and the number. The numbers will go sequentially, so the first one you place will become a 0, 1, but the prefix number is actually determined by your properties on your constructs. So if you go to your project properties here, see where it says levels, go into this little icon, edit your levels. Your levels will have a name, a floor elevation, a floor to floor height, and then an ID. We are using the ID value to drive that first number. So if you look here and see the 2 is set to second floor, that's where it's getting that 2 from. And if you go and do a right click on the construct here, right click, properties, you'll see that it is assigned to second floor. Now you don't see the ID value in there, you see the level, but the ID value is the driver. This allows you to have levels that you can keep track of, but you might want to use some different system for your numbering in here. If you change that to, say, first floor, it will change all of those numbers. I think I can demonstrate that pretty quickly. If I go to save, then I come in here, I'll right click, and I'll go ahead and set that to first floor, undo that, okay. Then I just gotta, basically the fastest way to do it is just close it, and then I'll bring it back up, and those all become 1s. All right. What else do we need to talk about? So in the previous, like video 1, the previous video, I got into some of the data for the rectangle and the slabs. That same logic applies to the data in the spaces. So if you pick one of these spaces, and you'll see down here we've got the extended data. It's very similar to what you saw on the spaces. So you can go look at that video to see how that is created. But if you go to the schedule after you've brought a schedule in, you edit the schedule table style, you'll see under, let's see, columns, you can go to modify any of these and you'll see how it's pulling in the data. So here it's just going to the object standard for the room. Nothing fancy there. But when you get down to the calculations, then we get into the fancy stuff. So modify here, and you'll see we're using a formula. And I discussed how to do that formula, or at least the concept behind the formula in the previous video. It's exactly the same stuff that's happening here, is that we're just doing a little search for the status on whether or not the space was set to demolished, existing, or proposed. Now, existing and proposed will have the same area value, but a demolished will either be zeroed out or turned into a negative value. In this case, we're going to see it turned into a -1. So the math is just, that's all it's doing in here. And you can see right here the example of 240 square feet becomes a negative. So that's how you can see those negative values on the schedule. So it's really just a simple little bit of code that runs over, reads the, well, I took that out now, but it reads the, in this one here, it reads the status to determine whether it's a positive or negative value. What else? There's so much that it's hard to keep track of in my head, all the different things that probably need to be discussed. We did do some basic display settings for high detail, a little finer hatch pattern, medium detail, and then low detail. And then finally, if you go over to presentation, it'll just do a screen gray, which it's controlled by the layer. So if you go to layer and just do a color search, here's the area pattern. I think if I change that to a light blue, if I have this correct, that should change to a light blue. Yeah, so you can control that on the fly. You can, if you XREF this into another sheet and you want to do that, you can do that because it's done by layer. Let's see here. I'm sure there are things I'm forgetting. Just for fun, I guess you could say, we did get into the space graphics to demonstrate what kinds of things can be done with the space graphics. Let's see, so commercial gray, this is residential. So we'll do the commercial, obviously, because it's a commercial building. Let's just do a color one. So this is a theme if you haven't worked with themes. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that in. Let's see here. All right. So what this does, this is something that's been in AutoCAD Architecture for years. It brings in a little chart showing a color coordinated I don't know, arrangement or layout for the spaces based on a little search that it does. So I'll show you that in a second. So basically, you saw the colors change. You can pick this, you can right-click, and you can say disable. Then the theme is not on. And then you can, of course, go back and apply the theme. If you pick the theme, right-click, and go to Edit Display Theme Style, you'll see here what's happening is a filter. It searches for this information down here. So the very first one we set up is searching for the name is equal to something called balcony. So if you've used the name balcony and it's not demolished, it will become this color here in this hatch pattern here and whatever else is set up here. So if we go to elevator, let's go down to elevator, and you can add new ones. So if your list has more names than ours, you can add them to this list, but use the same logic here. So here's elevator. Let's see, elevator, right? So it's number 8. So what happens is it finds the name is equal to the word elevator. So it's written, in the same way as the name assignment is set up. So it finds that name assignment, elevator, and it's not equal to demolished, because demolished is not going to get a color. That's how we're preventing that. So that's how that's kind of set up. Yeah, you can play with that if you need that for presentation purposes. I think that's it. And then for the next and final video, I'm going to get into doing occupancy calculations. Probably a very valuable set of tools, I would say. All right, I'm out.